Hello and welcome to my first speed build. Previously for the Reaper Awards I made a Victorian, or a sad excuse for a Victorian house, and I decided to one-up myself when I found this AI generated Victorian house on TikTok and I wanted to recreate it in The Sims. I originally filmed this back in October, which is why the house is all orange, and I was inspired because you can put orange lighting on the banisters and the spandrels using the seasons packs. So I'm starting with the wraparound deck using rounded rooms, then putting the woody foundation on in black. I'm also going to show you everything I use and the name of it so you can use it as well and what pack it comes from. This is from the Vampires pack. It's a thicker concrete fencing that I'm going to be putting on the porch. I had a bit of trouble with the rounded room because you can't place a wall within a certain distance of it, so it isn't very functional. But here I'm trying to block out some basic shapes to see how big the porch needs to be, and then I slap a frieze on it. There's actually a few friezes that come in different heights, so I could use them in multiple places during the build. And then I use the vampire columns because they're pretty detailed. They also come in black. For the stairs, I just use a basic base game stairs that are black and off-white and matches the ones in the reference picture really well. The ones in the reference picture aren't completely centered, so I was trying to figure out where exactly I wanted them. So I start redoing the shape of the house itself, and I wanted to try out some rounded rooms here and was disappointed because there is very little window options and you can't place a window facing outwards because it runs into the seam. So I resort to the octagonal room and just make it a little wider so you can actually use it inside the build. I find these octagonal rooms a little bit difficult to decorate from the inside because they're just so small you can't really put anything in them or use them for much. Then I start trying to match the rest of the walls to the picture, and I try using a rounded room on this far side as well, but once again I run into the same problem of there being no window options for the rounded rooms, or at least not ones that are matching my reference picture. I have a certain window in mind, so instead I just replace it with a diagonal wall, and I use this big window from the Spellcaster's Realm of Magic game pack. Then I move on to trying to find windows for the octagonal room, and I want something that's detailed enough that it looks fancy and Victorian and not boring like my other build did, but something that's big enough to kind of see through so I could put orange lights on the inside and have it match the reference picture in the end. If you don't know, a lot of the windows do this fun thing when you put them on a diagonal where they actually change shape or they add more to them that you don't normally see facing outwards. On the far side, I'm trying to find a window that's the right shape and size to match the one in the reference photo, and there's not really any good options, so I'm just putting this Get Famous window in for now. These Realm of Magic windows do a really good job at showing the diagonal window where it adds extra bit and you could actually see into the house a lot more, which I really like. Next I go in and I change the frieze to a different height, and I actually add a frieze to the main house because once you look past the porch it kind of looks a bit empty and the windows look a bit small for the height of the wall, and it really does a good job at filling in some space and adding some more detail. Here I'm looking at all the other options for this big window on the side, and it's just there's not really one with a good shape to it, and the more I look at the less detailed they are and they're kind of boring, so I just move on and deal with it later. I don't like the Get Famous one because it has this blue tint to it and you just can't see in like you can the other windows and it looks out of place. I'm using a seasons door for the front door because it really matches the reference photo a lot with the side windows on it. Once I'm done with that, I shrink the size of the porch on the sides and move on to the second floor. I close off the octagonal room from the inside so I can copy it and paste it onto the second floor with all the same windows. And then I move on to trying to figure out the shape of the upstairs from the reference photo. It's pretty hard to tell what's going on. I mean, it is an AI generated picture, so there probably isn't much going on. In real life, none of these little edges would match up. Specifically the wall on this right side, I can't tell if it's jutting out or not. Also, the circular room I'm trying to put in keeps glitching out, so I have to redo it 3 times before it starts working. And I decided to keep it a circular room since it's not facing straight forward, that the windows should be fine. And I just reused the Spellcaster's windows over here. Now, a big problem I was having was trying to figure out what I should do for this middle window. There's definitely nothing I have like it in my games and the packs I have. I was thinking about using the seasons window that kind of matches the door right beneath it, but I think I went with the cottage living window because it was just a lot more detailed, and I was really looking for little details in the Victorian house like the reference photo has. There's a lot of ornate bits to the windows and the friezes that I really wanted to show in the game, and I think that's what my other house was really missing. The roofing was a bit of a pest because these circular roofs don't match the frieze. They either hang off or don't even match up to the edge of it. Then when you try to do this slanted roof, the edge of it, the trim doesn't line up with the circular roofs and the pitch doesn't line up either. So I ended up getting a different roof completely and just using that to match up the trim and using the slanted roof to match the pitch. So there's like 5 different roof pieces that make up just this one area. And I just learned to live with this little middle bit that's sticking out that's a different color than the rest of the roof. I changed the roof color so it's less noticeable, but I'm just gonna live with it. I don't care. I go with this dark roof pattern called Shake It Up in the black color so it matches the black and white theme, and then I carry over that one roof piece to the side so the trim matches up, and then I put a gray trim all around it. I feel like roofing is a very special skill considering all the different roof pieces don't have similar trims and they don't come out to the same length sometimes. You have to be a mastermind to get away with it. Now I'm just trying to find some decorative bits to distract the eye, make it seem more ornate like the reference photo is. I don't know all the bits and bobs that are coming out of the reference photo, but there's loads of them. I don't even know what this little piece is called, but it looks very similar to the reference photo and it kind of looks like it's helping hold up the frieze in the photo. Then I add spandrels that actually have that same design on it so I can carry that detail throughout the build. Then I have to go through the actual horror of trying to do this 3rd floor. There were so many difficulties I was having. First, I tried to do just this little roof piece and quickly learned that it's like way too small. I was really trying to make it work and slap a window on it. This would have been the easiest option if it was available. Then I found this little roof piece from Cottage Living that I thought was cute and was desperate to try to find a way to incorporate it. For walls, I started out with a snowy escape wall that's black and white and has some paneling on it. I like the half and half look. Then I try to figure out this tower and I copy paste another layer of the octagon and try to figure out the shortest wall height and some decoration I could put on it to match it since it's like way higher up than the rest of the build. So I place a 4th layer and try to do this trim that goes on the bottom of a floor and extends downwards. You're just gonna have to trust the process on that one, and by trust the process I mean wait for me to delete it and decide to do something completely different. Just like I'm doing with this middle section. I really wanted to put a room on this 3rd floor and have the window actually go into a room so I could light it up from behind instead of it just being on a roof piece. But then I really had to figure out the pitch of the roof and have to give up on this pipe dream of using this decorative piece because I just don't think it's gonna fit anywhere. So doing this threw a big wrench into my plan, and I had to extend the size of this roof piece so that it would look normal, but it matches the picture a lot better. And now I decide to actually raise up the 2nd floor to max height so I can use this really thick frieze, and it looks way better. It really adds the height to that circular area that I really needed and kind of separates it and adds more detail as well. So with that done, I simplify it and start over on the 3rd floor, getting rid of that circular room now that we have the right height, and start doing something that I do know, and that's this little witch's hat roof piece. I just get 2 circular roof pieces and I make the pitch of one really flat and the other one really tall, and it looks perfect, to be honest. Just change the tiles and the trim and it works perfectly. I'm gonna change the color of this roof piece to be all solid dark and then just move on to a different area. The house in the reference picture is this tan color, but there are no good tan colors in this game. They just look hideous, so I'm changing it to all white for now, and I'm gonna use the paneling for detail later. This 3rd floor was really getting on my nerves at this point, and it only gets worse from here, so buckle up. I decided to dive in head first and try to map out the entire 3rd floor and think about what rooms would be usable so that I could figure out the roof from there. I wanted to make this room bigger on the front because it would just be a long hallway to a window otherwise, and there wouldn't be much use of it, but I realized really quickly that there's just no way to make it look good being that big, so I guess that's where stairs are gonna go. So I guess now that we've sighed and fully committed to this shape, we're gonna have to figure out a way to make it look interesting. So I go back and I put that dark tiling over all of the 3rd floor because I think it's gonna be a good contrast, especially since all the dark roof is gonna be up there anyways. And then I go in with the half tiling and just put it in certain areas to add detail. I also thicken this part of the build so it matches that roofing on the 3rd floor, and luckily it's the same size as where the door goes, so it kind of matches the whole way up. I have to figure out some kind of window situation, so I ended up piling 2 windows on top of each other, one from the werewolf pack that has this brick trim and then the base game one, and I still try to put that stupid cottage living thing in it. Don't worry, I'll give up on that eventually. So then I go and distract myself from the horrors that is the 3rd floor, and I find some awnings that that I want to use, and I really like this Get Famous awning. I think it really adds a lot. I put it over some of the main windows and doors. Then I get some Get Famous walls and put it just on that circular area, the tower. It's a little bit of a different color and it makes it stand out a little more. It also has that half and half design. Now that I've gotten my confidence up with the rest of the build, I can go back to the 3rd floor and try to figure it out. I'm going to start doing the side of the building that isn't shown in the AI picture so I can kind of freestyle it. I'm just going to copy paste what I have on the front to the side. It makes me feel like I'm getting a lot of work done, even though I'm just procrastinating. Then I get distracted with the entire side of this build. Then I start doing this side and ignore the 3rd floor altogether. Have that be tomorrow's problem. So I carry the columns and the spandrels around the porch, and I decided I want a little balcony on this side. I copy paste the fencing from the bottom floor and try to do the roofing, though I admit I kind of half-assed it and I could do a lot better. I get these little roof pieces and I extend them all the way around the build, and I really like how they fit. I start to refine the balcony and decided I wanted it a bit shorter, so I take it in just to be the width of that little roofing piece and fill in the roofing that is missing now. I pull out this wall a little bit more so it's kind of separate from the balcony, and it adds more interesting design to the side of the building, and carry that really thin bit of roof around the side. Here's where I finally commit, and I'm looking at roofing pieces and I find this little piece from Get Famous that I can actually insert into the wall, not just the roof. And it looks like this really decorative window piece. It doesn't really go with my plan. I'm trying to get a light to shine through it, but I'll get over it. I replace the balcony fencing with the other vampire fencing that's a little more detailed and delicate, and then I extend this roof piece over the balcony so it adds some protection from the rain. I also carry over the columns and raise them up, and I put a different kind of frieze piece on the balcony itself so it just looks a bit different, and add that contrasting wallpaper there too. I also put a seasons door just like the one in the front, but this one's rounded so it's just a tiny bit different, and then the awning from Get Famous as well to carry it around to the side and keep it all in the same theme. I find this spellcaster's awning and I want to use it somewhere, so this is where I finally decide to get rid of these stupid blue windows and try something else. Just give me a second. I still don't know what these are called, but I'm putting them in this rounded section to make it a little more interesting since there's nothing really going on over there. And then I finally get to replacing the windows, which means I have some work to do. And by work I mean fight my indecisive nature when it comes to windows. It's more of a self-work than a physical work. I ended up going with these rounded spellcaster windows, and I just put them side by side. I like how the rounded top kind of matches this rounded awning. Here I shortened the back of the build. I don't know why, but I just did. I guess I wanted some space so I could put a front yard, and I didn't want to change the lot it was on, but I guess I just decided I was going to do that later. I also lowered these windows so I could fit an awning. Guess which awning? Wow. And I raise up these pieces so it kind of looks like it's doing a thing. They're not just there for decoration, but maybe like a function. And I changed the wallpaper and put some columns on either side just to add a little something. Then I go crazy with the columns, so I guess if you want that mansion bearer aspiration, this will definitely complete it for you. Also, I don't know what it is. I think it's the copy paste feature, but sometimes when you put columns down, they don't automatically go to roof height, and you don't notice until you're looking at it from a certain angle, and you have to go back in and do every single one by hand. It's really annoying. Never experienced that myself though, because I'm obviously perfect. That kind of thing just couldn't happen to me. I slap some more columns down, and then I have to do the inevitable and finally go back to the 3rd floor. If I thought the other parts of the 3rd floor were hard, I was in for it this time. Doing this circular roof piece, like this roof room, I don't even know what you would call that, was horror. First off, you have to find a way to access it from the inside and then roof it. So naturally I get distracted again and decide to replace this bottom window. At first I tried doing the circular windows like I did before, but it looked too boring, so I ended up overlapping windows even though I was trying not to do it. Then to add a little more something, I found these different bars that you can get from the Snowy Escape pack, and I alt placed them so they like look totally black so I could use them as a kind of shutter. They do have shutters in this game, nonetheless that pack, but we're just going to ignore that fact for the meantime. But I get through the trouble of doing all that and I hate the way it looks. But it's kind of fun placing them, honestly. I decided to do it on the bottom instead to try to kind of extend where the windows go and make it look like a bigger piece and take up more space, and it kind of adds something to it. I don't know. I like it. I do think there's like a get to work window that's very similar to this that I could have used, but let's ignore that. I slapped the same spellcaster windows on this curved room and then try to work out the roofing, first starting with a diagonal roof piece and a few bad decisions along the way. I changed the shingles and the trim to match, and then I have to actually extend it past past where the windows go, so it's a little overhanging, which wasn't my intention, but I think it's the best option in this case. I start putting the puzzle pieces together, and I know I need a slanted roof on the left, so I start to plan on how that would meet up with this diagonal roof. The diagonal piece ends up clipping with the walls. I try to make it bigger, but at the pitch that I need it at, it's just not going to work. So I need to shrink the room sides so that it doesn't show. I change it to the correct pitch and extend the sides all the way down to the bottom and put in a circular piece to hide the ceiling on the next floor down. And then I see that this slanted piece is clipping, so I have to change the height to match the pitch of the circular piece and put in a second slanted piece to actually match the room height. Then, since extending the diagonal sides means that you could see straight through them, I have to get a third slanted piece, but not before realizing I need to redo the walls of the room because it closed it off by accident when I shrunk it down. Are you confused yet? Good, because it gets worse. I go back, add the siding, the trim, and the shingles to the slanted diagonal roof piece, and then extend it up to that regular diagonal roof piece so that you can't see through them. I copy and paste that to the other side and just kindly ignore the fact that the trim is showing on the top. I try to find something interesting to place in front of the windows, like some kind of balcony, and I even try a rounded room, but that rounded room was doing the same thing where you can't place it too close to walls. So I just kind of gave up on that and ended up not putting anything there at all. This is how I ended up. I think it ended up pretty good for what it's worth. Definitely could have been worse. And then I just slapped another one of those roof pieces on the front of it to match the other sides of the build. The bottom of that main piece was clipping weird, so I ended up putting a thick trim on the bottom of it. And then I go in and get some awnings and place them around this curved edge just so it's a little smoother. I also find those shutters that I mentioned before and decide to put them on either side of the front window and try to use them on the side. To finish up the side, I'm going to put a side door, and I'm going to jut this out a little bit more to match the floor above it and just add something interesting. Then I'm going to carry over the stairs and add some more columns. For the door, I found this base game door that I think is a little bit boring for the outside, so I'm going to use it inside, and then I use the spellcaster's door on the outside. There's this swatch, and then there's a more intricate swatch, but I think I'm just going to go with the boring one. I carry over that wallpaper to this side as well, and then when I'm looking through the window trying to find something to put here, I find this cottage living window and decide to put it on the second floor because it's quite big and it juts out, but it looks really good in that spot. For this spot, I end up using the spellcaster's window, and on either side I do that other window that I used on the front. I don't even know what you call that shape, but I put one on either side, and then I change the swatch to match the main window, and it kind of looks like it's all one piece at the end of it. You have to alt place those side windows a little lower than they naturally want to go to make it look good, and then I size up the spellcaster's awning and make sure it doesn't clip onto the second floor. Next, I'm going to save you the headache of the roofing. It did not work well, and at the end of it you can't even see onto the third floor. I'm probably gonna fix it off screen for part 2, but I get the initial shape of it down. I don't know how many roof pieces it took in the end, probably over 20 just for this third floor. It's an actual nightmare. I would never want to do it again. The last thing I have to do is choose some flooring pieces, so I tried this cottage living dark colored wood that's kind of rough, and it looks like it should go outside, like it's weathered, and then I find this herringbone hardwood floor in a dark color, and I put that inside. I just think herringbone's really fancy and I want to use it somewhere. Even if the third floor isn't currently usable, I'm going to extend it as much as I can and hope that I can fix it off screen later, because it would be nice to have some more space to use inside the build. I throw some dark colored walls on the inside and put the doors somewhere, and then I have to finish the roof, aka the chimneys and the corner of the roof that I didn't do yet. There's 3 different chimneys that look very similar, just in different sizes, so I decided to use all 3 of them just to be quirky, and then put some of these roof spikes on the tip of these towers just for fun. And then I just finish up that back corner of the roof, and for the little triangle areas that go out, I end up taking off the awning and just putting a bit of roof piece on it all the way around. As I finish up here, let me know if you want commentary on these Let's Build videos, or if you want it just to be music in the background and just watch me work. It's really hard coming up with things to say, and I don't even know what to call most of these things, nor do I really know my thought process when making these builds anyways. I could definitely get the videos out a lot faster if I didn't have to do the voiceovers, but if you like them, let me know. I would make 2 versions of this video, one with commentary and one without, but YouTube really does not like reusing footage for some reason. It will only push one of the videos and probably won't even give you notifications for the other one. Last, I slapped some railings onto these stairs and call it a day. That is my Victorian build for this month. I'm only doing the 2 sides, and I'm gonna finish the other 2 sides and the inside in a part 2 and hopefully get that roof fixed. I think it definitely turned out a lot better than the first one did. It doesn't really match the reference photo too much other than in shape, but you can only ask for so much. Also, I might make some more videos of some house tours of builds I've already finished. I like to do a lot of reference photos, so build houses that exist in real life or are in movies. Let me know what you would like to see or what you would like me to build, and I will see you next time. I'll finish this up and make it Christmassy so I can get online for the cozy celebration event. Okay, bye.